What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
How's it going?
And to my left, Zachary Parks.
What's up?
What is up, indeed?
You threw me off a little there. You looked at Zach
know,
while
you
you were
did.
saying my part.
Forgot what right it left.
No.
Yeah, no, I
It
thought
was
for a
total
second that
distraction.
I had forgotten which side was which, and I was like, am I on the left?
I thought right when you were going to say, "What's up, everybody?" Everything, the mics would just explode. That's what I was waiting for. Like, I thought that would be perfect comedic timing, considering
why we're sitting here today, I wouldn't be that surprised.
What's up? Damn it!
So this is actually
The switchboard is on fire, but like not a big
What's up?
raging fire.
Yeah, you don't notice
like
it for a little bit.
small fire.
Like smoldering.
seriously we joke about all this because we are sitting here for the second time recording this episode. Literally the first time in our now 90 episode history of Team Chat Podcast that we had to re-record an episode due to technical.
That's actually amazing.
It's not bad at all.
It's actually great. Through 90 episodes, we never had technical difficulties.
Can we officially title this one episode 90.5?
90 and a half?
Yeah,
Then
90
it's
and
just
a
gonna get
half.
confusing.
Yeah, 90 and a
Just
half.
call it
Come
100.
on.
Skip
Fuck
it.
it. We've done 100.
Technically, we could if we counted bonusodes.
Hey, we have 99 items on iTunes.
See, that's
Just
what I mean.
saying.
Oh, wait, do we really?
99 items.
Why?
Because
what
we
are the
have-
other items?
We have
We have
bonusodes. We have
9
the song.
bonusodes. The theme song was the very first thing we posted up,
Yep.
and then we're on episode 90. So
Yep.
technically, in
okay.
iTunes, we'll be
This
hitting
would be
number 100.
100.
Yay, happy.
Items. Is it items? I think it's items.
Items, songs, tracks.
Content.
We're
Yeah.
almost podcast octogenarians.
I know it. It's crazy. Here we sit.
Crazy.
Man, it's a crazy time. But yeah, so episode 100, the actual one, is coming up 10 episodes away now. Whew.
What are we going to talk about on episode 100?
I don't know. We got to plan something big. Well, in case you did not know, the Team Chat Podcast is a video game podcast where we talk about games, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do that by sending us an email at teamchatpodcast@gmail.com, following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and subscribing to our YouTube,
Yeah.
and iTunes, there's the plural I was looking for, channel. And if you want to support the show, you can do that as well by going to patreon.com/teamchatpodcast, where it's for as little as $1 a month. 4 quarters, as we said in the first episode airing of this one. That's all.
Oh, it's
4
all
little
gone.
quarters. It's all lost now.
We
It was
don't
a
have
fun
our
little analogy.
gag.
We
I know.
don't
It was
have
a
our
funny
whole
bit.
2
I know.
quarters.
We had like quarters. We were
man.
doing like physical showing of how
dang
little
it.
a dollar looks when you talk about
We're in
it.
like
in
second
4 quarters.
gear.
I know.
You muddled up the intro. Because the last time you did it was
Yeah, no, last time it was
A+.
perfect.
You know, I'm pretty good now. I'm pretty good about it now. But some of those,
You know, I think we'll feel better if we just shit on Jerrett the whole time.
Yeah, it's really just to get our insecurities off the table.
I know. It's my fault we're in this situation. I understand that it's my fault we're in this
If
pickle.
he weren't always drinking on the job.
But anyway, you can support the show on patreon.com, which for as little as $1 a month. We will give you the episode early before its general Tuesday release and access to our private Team Chat Podcast Discord server. We do have an update on the song contest because when we were recording the first episode, Zach was able to correctly guess the song
That's right.
from the hint given to us by Cody Peck, which was just part of the cleanup crew.
And I said, first I said division.
And I said no.
And I
Although
said-
I congratulated you because that was a very good
I
pickup
know,
on the
because they have
cleanup
cleanup crew.
Yeah.
And then I said Super Mario Sunshine.
That's
And
right.
he was right. Yeah, I
Super Mario Sunshine.
very different
couldn't
games.
believe it. Yeah.
So I win, and you'll hear a hint at the end of this episode.
Boom.
Right?
Which has been a while since you've given a hint.
It has been.
So,
Can it also be from Super Mario Sunshine?
Yeah.
well, not now.
Trick question.
Yeah, trick question.
Same game 2 weekends in a row. All right. But the topic of today's... So, yes, stick around at the end of the episode where you will hear the song contest hint for this week. All right. But the topic for today, once again, is in the spirit of Halloween. We're getting full into it. Last year, we only did 1 episode of Halloween-y wise based on just horror games. This year, we're going to try to do 2 episodes based on scary things. So today's topic is our favorite or memorable video game monsters.
Yep.
So yeah, doesn't
Zach
necessarily
is
have to
so
be.
ready. He's so ready.
He loves
For
just going
once,
out
he's
with this.
really ready.
The last time we did it, I was so into it. I
know.
Stuff. I just got to get back into it.
You can change
I know.
all of your answers. You can make crap up
Yeah, I
on
know.
the fly.
Dude, on fly. That's the
actually a silver
wonders.
lining, isn't
That's the
it?
wonders
Yeah.
of Team Chat Podcast right there.
The grave mine from Halo 2. I was thinking about that.
Well, why don't you start with that?
No.
Because I
like
don't
my
know what
3.
that is.
Okay, I did like your
Oh, are
three.
you sticking with it?
I liked your 3 as well.
I like my 3.
I liked the
Because
first
those
one
had
the best.
Okay. Okay.
Well, then why don't you tell us what the first one was?
Okay, so for two people that don't know, can't wait to drop this bomb on you. This is it's not necessarily a monster. I don't know how to tell it because you already know.
That's fine. They don't know.
They don't know. I'll talk to the audience. So it's not necessarily, well, it is a monster. It's a monster. And it comes from one of the most popular video games of all time. Any guesses?
My guess would have been Mario,
Yeah, you said
but
Mario.
I was wrong.
It's from Pokemon, you
Oh,
fool.
God. You can't see it, but my brain is exploding
So
right
it's
now.
one of my favorite Pokemon, and it's pretty monster-esque because of its girth. And it's
Well, I mean, in the argument can be made that the Pokemon are, in fact, monsters.
Right, we
Pokemon,
talked about this.
they're
Pocket
monsters.
monsters. That's what it's short
Yes,
for.
exactly.
So they've totally fit
They
within this
totally
topic.
fit.
Yes.
And
I don't think Snorlax would.
Oh,
Fuck. Shit.
Damn it.
Keep going.
Cat's out of the bag.
Cat's
It's
out of the bag.
Snorlax.
God damn it.
Whatever. All I was going to say is that you encounter this Pokemon in red and blue on the bridge, and you can't get around them. And yeah, it's Snorlax. And that's Snorlax.
That was an accident. I didn't mean
I
to
don't
do
care.
that.
I don't care.
It was funny, though. I enjoyed
All
it.
right, so
Those are good.
Snorlax, explain your reasoning, good sir.
Snorlax is one of my favorite Pokemon. And I don't know why. I think everyone picks their favorite Pokemon for different reasons and probably don't exactly know why. Probably because you're cute and you like the cute run, like Bulbasaur.
Hey, Bulbasaur is excellent. How
Bulbasaur is
dare
excellent
you?
grass-type Pokemon.
He is a grass poison type when he evolves. He's wonderful.
I just love Snorlax. I like Pokemon that don't have evolutions, like Ditto and Snorlax and Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan?
Genghis Khan?
Gosh, no, now I
You know
can't
Kangaskhan?
remember his correct terminology. I can only think
It's
of
like
Genghis
it's
Khan.
like a play on Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Like I can visualize it, but
Yeah.
I can't think of what his actual name is.
The legendary birds, Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno. Those are like, I just like Pokemon that don't, I don't know, like that's interesting. Because most
Now-
Pokemon have evolutionary stages.
Are you aware that they retroactively created an evolutionary stage for
Yes,
Snorlax?
yes,
that
and
little
I
thing
don't
called
count.
Munchlax. Right, it
Uh-huh.
doesn't
I
count
don't
though.
count that.
Like in my mind, Snorlax is its own thing.
Yeah.
He is born Snorlax.
He is Snorlax.
He remains Snorlax for the duration of
Forever.
what I can imagine is like an elephant's lifespan. I assume he lives for a
I'm sure you
very
can
long
find
time.
that information on the Pokemon Wikipedia.
Snorlax
Lax's
lifespan.
I'm sure someone came up with a number for good reasons.
For good reasons.
Probably hard to dispute. But anyways, yeah, I just love. I always loved Snorlax. I love he's like in between like a cat and a like sumo type.
And a bear.
And a bear.
He's like a cat bear
He's like a
sumo
cat bear.
wrestler.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he's
Sleepy like a
sleepy.
cat.
Yeah, he's super sleepy. And you have to you like encounter him, and he's one of the few Pokemon that you see in the game before you come up to it. You know, before you find it in the field, like you actually see him, art rendered into the game itself. So you come up onto him and you have to find a Pokeflute to get around him, which is like a nice little fun side. He's like a side mission in of itself. He's very like prominent as a thing in the game. And I guess they knew I guess they pushed Snorlax a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, you can no, I was going to say you almost see him on a cover or something, but you can't. No, it's Blastoise, Charizard, or some shit.
I can't remember. Who do you get the Pokeflute from?
I have no idea. I don't remember that.
I can't remember.
Gotta
either.
replay it.
Got to replay it.
Yeah, well, it's in all of the good Pokemon games. Snorlax always is. You always encounter him on the road.
It's in the
You're just like, wow.
TV show too.
Exactly,
They can't move him.
and it's a classic.
And he's a-
Isn't it like in like the first 10 episodes
Yeah,
or
he's
something
classic.
of the
He's just a
very
classic
first Pokemon show there
Yeah.
ever was?
And he's powerful. He's like a body slam. He can go to sleep and regain health. He's like a powerful Pokemon that you
He
want
is.
to capture. I remember just being like obsessed with trying to capture Snorlax.
And when you run into somebody that's using a Snorlax that's really high level, you're just like, God damn it.
Just
'Cause
might as well
he
forfeit
has-
this fight already.
He has so much health, and it
Yeah.
takes for freaking ever to kill him.
Yeah.
And he's normal type.
Yeah.
And normal types don't have a lot that works really well against them,
They're
except,
right.
of course, fighting type.
Yeah.
As we are Familiar, right?
Yeah,
Jared?
absolutely.
Yeah, right,
All the
Shaq?
Pokemon I've
You
played.
all knew that.
Yeah. We all discussed that.
Everybody knows all of the details of the in-depth compatibility
As it were.
charts. Yeah, I think we all know what they look like, and how the introduction of Dragon type and Fairy type threw everything out of whack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
everybody knows that.
Totally. All the people, even people like me who haven't played, I just know it.
Yeah, I assumed as much.
Yep. Just it just seeps in. All this knowledge, you guys talk about it so much, and I just seep it all in.
We almost never talk about Pokemon.
Yeah,
But
Jarrett's never
still,
played Pokemon.
I picked it up.
You're bullshitting us.
Bullshit is how you get by in this world.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
it's totally fair that I would be able to do that.
All right. So what's your number 2 then? Why don't you BS
So my
that
number
too?
3, no
Oh,
BS.
that's right. Shit.
Man,
I'm all over,
It's all over the place.
I'm all over the
this
place.
is why I sit in the middle.
This is why I wear the crown upon my head. Yeah.
Lord Jerrett.
Heavy lies the
Lord.
crown. Yes.
All right. Well, my number 3 favorite monster or memorable monster is one of the earliest monsters that I ever encounter coming up against in my video gaming history. It takes place from one of my favorite first-person shooters, the game that got me into first-person shooters, and that is Star Wars Dark Forces.
No, I forgot the second part.
I was going to say.
Well, I mean, you got the Star Wars part.
I
So that's
did.
good. So
I
that's
knew-
good. I've
well, I
talked
knew
about
what
this
you're-
game a few times.
Oh, yeah.
A few times in the history of this show.
You bet.
But the monster is the Kell Dragon.
Ooh.
And so it comes
What's
into
this?
play.
Wait a minute.
Creature you
Slow down, Jarrett.
So for those of you like these two who are not
You're
familiar,
going too fast.
who are not familiar with the Star Wars universe and all the wonders that it contains, the Kell Dragon is what is kept aboard. It's a pet of Jabba the Hutt, and it's kept aboard his private starship, which you are taken to as a captive in Dark Forces. You have bounty. Jabba has a bounty on your head. You're Kyle Katarn in this game, and he has placed a bounty on your head. And so he obviously finds you at some point in the game, takes you on his ship, and then is like, "Well, you know what? I got you. So now I don't have to pay a bounty hunter, but I am going to kill you by trying to feed you to this Kell Dragon."
Why doesn't he ever try to kill people in more efficient manners?
You know, you'd think he would. Well, he did ultimately learn his lesson because not
well,
only
didn't he die?
he did. Well, see, that's what I mean because he feeds you to this, and obviously you beat this monster. And then
Yeah.
he tries to feed Luke to the Rancor in Return of the Jedi. Luke kills the Rancor, and then he's like, "You know what? I'm really pissed. I'm going to feed you guys to another big, huge beast, an even bigger one, the Sarlacc."
Is that the thing in the sand?
Yeah.
Okay, I
In
was
the
about
Great
to say,
Pit of
wait a
Carcoon.
second. One of those things is not like the
And then
others.
they wind up killing him there. And then Boba Fett eventually, if you believe the expanded universe, which still exists, and I believe as hold true as Star Wars gospel truth, Boba Fett kills the Sarlacc and escapes. So yeah,
I think he died.
Jabba the Hutt and his history of trying to use monsters to dispatch his enemies has not gone well for him. But anyway, so you're dropped into this pit with this Kell Dragon, and being that you were a captive and a prisoner, you have no weapons with you. So this is one of the things that made it a more memorable monster fight. Is you literally had to punch this thing to death.
That's right.
Which is ridiculous if you think about it. So this giant monster, this Kell Dragon, comes up and charges at you, and all it can do is bite you. And if you get too far away from it, it will jump at you and bite you, which does more damage because it jumped and smacked you and all this other stuff. But you literally just have to running around it and punching it straight
And
up.
now remind me, why don't your other moves work on it?
Well, because you don't have any weapons.
Oh, because you
took
just
away your
wait.
guns.
So the Jedi are useless.
Well, he's not a Jedi.
Unless,
Okay, so-
oh,
so
okay.
He doesn't know he's force sensitive.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
right.
But he
you're
might
right.
be
You're
in
right.
later Dark Forces
force
games.
sensitive.
You're good. You're sticking with the timeline here. I'm glad that you're remembering all this.
I know.
knowledge.
I could do the whole thing.
So Kyle Katarn later Dark Forces games discovered that he is a Jedi Force sensitive and trains to become a Jedi Knight. So we were assuming when we recorded this first time, maybe he was able to like superpower his punches.
That's right. I like that theory.
Unknowingly.
Yeah, no,
I like it too. I like it too. It makes a lot of sense. It helps kind of cover up that very obvious plot hole of punching a dragon to death.
Oh, I'm sure those scales. One
Yeah,
punch,
they had
you'd
to
be
hurt
like, well,
really
I'm not gonna do
hard.
this,
It's got
guys.
spikes on
Yeah.
it, so yeah, I would have to assume that a little more at play than just a random old punch.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so after you kill the Kell Dragon, you're able to retrieve your weapons and you fight Jabba's crew and the rest of it, and a few more Kell Dragons, which you are able to take out a lot easier once you have your weapons back. But yeah, so
Can
the
you
Kell Dragon,
choose to continue to punch them if you wanted to?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's old. I mean, sure. You could play the whole game by punching people.
Why aren't you playing it that way?
Because
Please do a
Who
Let's
would
Play where
do
you
that?
play it with only your
That would be
fists.
funny.
I
That
could
would be
do that.
so
Yeah.
funny.
I have it on
the cursing.
I have it on the PS. It's a PlayStation Network digital game, and I have it for the PS3. I think.
Oh my
So,
god,
yeah,
get on
definitely
it! I want to see that. I want to see the whole
pay
game
money for that.
fists only.
That'd be hard. There's some big bosses later on that
Yeah.
it would be.
You
probably
could do
like
it.
firefights
Could
too,
you
right?
punch
Yeah.
Darth
You go, like,
Vader?
just duck.
You don't
just-
actually fight Darth Vader
Oh.
in this one.
Useless.
Yeah. But I'm glad you knew that name.
Yeah.
I'm glad
He's
you knew
right
that
there.
name.
I've seen the movies.
Well, you act like you know nothing of it, so
I just don't know about the lore of the Kill Dragons. I can't know everything.
Well, that's true. It's hard to know everything about it. It's a very expansive universe,
Yeah,
so
well,
I'll give you that.
yeah.
So what is your number 3?
Well, last time I led up to it and you guys guessed wrong. So I'm going to see if you guys can get it right this time.
Okay.
So
Oh,
it's
yeah, it's not
from,
like-
well,
not Legend
let's
of
see.
Dragoon.
No, it's not. It's from a different Legend of. You get one more guess.
Legend of Link.
Legend of Link.
Legend of Zelda. I know
Yes,
this.
it's from the Legend of Zelda.
Zelda's a cool guy.
I was that kid. I was that kid
Right.
when I played my first
I think
ever.
it's hard not to be.
Yeah, because in
Legend of Zelda.
Unless
Zelda, you play
actually
as
play
Link.
it.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the first game I actually ever played was Link's Awakening, and Zelda technically wasn't in it. Like you were in this kind of alternate.
Why did they call it the Legend of Zelda?
I'm like, he's pretty not good at being a hero. Because you suck. You're like a kid, but whatever. That's beside the point. So this is one of the most memorable and perseverant. I don't think that's a word.
I get it though.
What's a better word for that? Pervasive.
Pervasive, oh, yeah.
One of the more pervasive creatures of all of the Legend of Zelda series from Ocarina of Time and onwards. It is...
It's like the Hand Man.
God, you guys suck. No, it's the Re-Deads, you idiots.
Oh, when did you do the Hand
Why are you
Man?
throwing me in
We
with
talked
it?
about both. We talked about both of them.
is that
So
your number
for
two?
this one, I'm actually going to lump them together because I have another one that we're going to do later that you guys
Re-Deads.
haven't heard of.
The Re-Deads,
Yes.
that's
So
right.
this is kind of a
They're
double
creepy.
whammy. This is Re-Deads and Dead Hand, and I forgive you for getting it wrong because they sound the
Close
same. So Re-Deads are first encountered, I believe, in Ocarina of Time, and of course, you're like Kid Link when you first run into a Re-Dead. And they're a really scary creature because they look like weird, deformed mummies. And when you encounter them for the first times, you're always in a very scary part of the game. Like you're either in the royal family's tomb or you're in the spirit temple. You're never in like a good sunlit, safe area. You're
Yeah.
usually underground in the dark. There are wall masters and floor masters everywhere, and you're just like, this is horrible, and I want to cry and go home. And then you enter a room, and in the distance, perhaps, you see this weird looking thing that's not moving, and you're like, okay, this usually isn't good. I'm not really hearing a lot of music either. This can't be good either. And so you approach them because you're like, maybe I can just go around it. Joke's on you, you can't. Re-Deads will animate as soon as you get within a certain amount of distance from them, and they will turn on you, unhinge their jaw in ungodly terror, and shriek at you. And poor Link gets so scared that he can't even move, so he gets paralyzed. And so like you're shaken to your core there for a second, literally shaken in your boots. And if the Re-Deads are close enough to you, they latch onto you with all of their many limbs. They only have 4, but it seems like a million.
Right.
They latch onto you and suck the life right out of you.
Damn, it's
Depending on how many hearts you have, you may or may not survive. Later in the game, it's really hard to die to a Re-Dead. But the point is, they're really, really scary. And when you encounter them for the first time, you're terrified. They continue to be a strong element of the series in Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time. I actually can't super remember if they were in Twilight Princess.
I don't think they were.
I don't think they
Because
were
I
either.
don't know what you're talking about.
And I
But
can't
your favorite
think
rendition
of
is from Wind Waker.
Wind Waker, correct. So my favorite rendition is from Wind Waker because they're these weird looking things with like the really long earlobes and huge earrings, and their eyes are just black holes, and when they animate they get red pinpoints in them, and when they unhinge their jaw to shriek at you, it's huge, and you're just like, wow, this is the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life. And actually, I don't think we talked about this previously. When you eventually do get, at least in Wind Waker, the mirror shield. If you can deflect light onto them, it temporarily paralyzes them.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so it's just a fun fact. You can temporarily disable them with some mirror light. And sometimes you hit them by accident when your shield is on your back, and it's very silly. But the most fun thing
silly place.
about the Re-Deads is that in Majora's Mask, if you're wearing, I think there's like 3 different masks that'll make it happen. Like the captain's hat, and a couple of others I can't remember off the top of my head. But they, if you wear the masks when you're approaching Redeads, they will dance for you. And they dance in beautiful pirouettes.
Nice.
And one of them does like the Russian style where they do like this and then do the
like
kick out
their kicks
thingy.
out?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, and they'll just dance and dance and dance and they won't attack you. And it's like, this is the best.
little bit
Now
going
I feel
incognito.
safe. Yeah, so you just have to go incognito and you can get right past them. The same cannot be said for Dead Hand. So I did show you the horrors of Dead Hand last time.
you did.
He is a monster that should never have gotten out of hell. No one's really sure how he did. It's unclear if Ganon created him with his infinite evil or if he's just out and about roaming the woods for funsies, looking for poor little kids like Link to just utterly destroy. So Dead Hand is so named because of his grotesque white hands, sometimes many of them, that come out of the ground, latch onto your skull, and then do horrendous damage to you. And Dead Hand also has a horrifying visage. He looks like he's probably covered in blood, but he's also white, kind of like a naked mole rat. Come to life, but huge and gross and with many hands that will kill you. And when you encounter Dead Hand for the first time, you just don't even know what to do, other than maybe call your mom, because that's
Cry?
about, and cry. Yeah.
Curl up into the fetal position.
I mean, that's what I do whenever I encounter
Kill
Dead
me
Hand.
now.
So, the Redeads and their older brother, Dead Hand. Not actually related,
like
but
Dead Hand.
thematically they're related.
they
Dead Hand was
both
creepy.
have dead in their name,
Yeah, exactly.
so they're of the same family of
Yeah.
dead.
I assume that Dead Hand is more closely related to the Wall Master, though.
That's true.
Little hands.
Yeah.
I don't think those were in Twilight Princess either.
I don't know.
What were
I don't
they
think so.
thinking?
Not including the wall hands. It's just not a complete game.
Dead Hand-
Literally unplayable.
Unplayable, yeah, literally unplayable.
Not in canon. Not in the game canon.
Man, now I have to know. That was a very synchronized drink you guys just took there. That was a little weird.
It's just part of the team chat experience.
Team Chat Podcast.
just part of it.
So my number 2 monster comes from a game that is fraught with monsters. Literally fraught. They're everywhere. In fact, it's part of your job to get rid of these monsters.
What?
Ghostbusters, the game for Nintendo 64.
Yes.
Monster
absolutely.
Hunter.
Slimer.
Nintendo DS.
The slimy guy, the
Yeah.
green dude, is my favorite. Actually, just watched Ghostbusters for the first time this weekend.
The original one.
The original.
For the
never
first
seen
time.
the
I've never
original.
seen the
What?
original.
How can that be?
I feel like that movie
I
would
feel
be
like I've
like one of your
explained-
favorites.
Literally, all people have seen
And
Ghostbusters.
I feel like you would love that movie.
I did love it.
Yeah,
it
it's
was
great.
a great movie.
I feel like they,
Wait,
Now-
so
movie
who's
that-
your favorite Ghostbuster?
I'd have to say Egon. That is,
I don't remember. I don't
It's
know
a
their
trick
names.
question. It's the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man.
see, that's not a Ghostbuster.
Yes,
that's
it
a
is.
ghost.
Because he
That's
goes,
That's a ghost. I see.
jokes.
You got jokes.
I got him. Got him for days.
No, we've explained this about how growing up I wasn't allowed to see
Oh,
all
that's
the classics.
That's right.
And so now I'm still playing a little bit of catch
Because
up,
they
but I caught
weren't
up.
Jared's backlog. I
appropriate.
feel like Jared's backlog is like a Bible that he keeps.
I think
by his
it
bed.
is.
It is.
Wait, so
It's
did you
huge.
cross it off?
Yes,
Good.
it's crossed off my backlog. I've now caught up to that classic.
I see you just crossing it out.
I actually make a list of like all the movies I watch in a year. So that
That's good.
That one
I
did
should
get
do
added
that.
to that one. But my monster does not come from Ghostbusters, the game. I
thought I had it.
That would good guess. I like it though. It comes from The Witcher 3.
Oh, that,
remember
yes.
this?
Okay, I actually totally blocked it out.
See, so surprise
No,
is still
this is
new and
new
fresh.
information.
But the monster that I wanted to talk about specifically is the Fiend. Even though, as I said, The Witcher 3, you are a monster hunter, or in the Witcher series, you are a monster hunter. So you come across many different types of monsters, ghosts, ghouls, and goblins. But this one is the Fiend, which you first encounter, or at least I did in my game, in my playthrough, in the Crookback Bog, as part of the
Say it again. The
Crookback Bog.
Can you say it 3 times fast?
Crookback Bog, Crookback Bog, Crookback Bog.
Okay, that was pretty good.
So you first encounter it there during the Bloody Baron quest line, or the quest lines that involve the Bloody Baron. And
It's a pretty good quest line, right?
it is. It's a really good quest line. In fact, it's one of the favorite ones that I've come across so far. And I've actually have gone back kind of because I'm still in my first playthrough of The Witcher 3. I have no idea when I'm going to get a second or third playthrough of The Witcher 3 to explore the many different quest lines of how it ended. But I looked it up because it ended one way and I was shocked and surprised and I wanted to see how it ended another way. But anyway, so you're going through this bog because you're trying to find the Bloody Baron's wife and daughter, or at this point, his wife. And so you're in this Crookback Bog and as you're going through it with the Baron and his men, you're attacked by all different kinds of monsters. There are the normal drowners that you fight, which are pretty much the most common monster that you'll come across in The Witcher. You get attacked by a couple times by some water hags, which are just a little bit harder than the drowners.
That's what I hope I come back as.
A water
I
hag.
want to be a water hag. I feel like it's already so close to my personality. I just need to be dead and have
I
some
think
water.
that'd be just a really bad insult to a real person. You water hag. They'd be like, how dare you?
I've played The Witcher and I know they're terrible beasts.
Can you imagine if you were at like a pool party and somebody called you a water hag?
Like, this is appropriate.
That guy,
I'm in water.
Yeah.
I own
That was
it.
very rude what that gentleman said.
I own this name.
You hear that guy call that girl a water hag? That'd be crazy.
That would be crazy. You wouldn't even know what to do. You
Is
would,
it bad?
You would know that you'd been insulted, but you
Yeah.
wouldn't know why.
Exactly.
And those are the best insults of all.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Think about it.
But so you get to this village, and in this village, you are attacked by a horde of other creatures. So again, wave after wave of drowners and water hags come through, and you think you've gotten through it. You think you've gotten through the very thick of it. And then all of a sudden you hear a loud rumbling coming from the forest, and out bursts the Fiend. And so the Fiend, I'd seen him in promotional art for The Witcher before, so I knew he was something to be scared of when he comes into play. But I had no idea that I was going to come into one so early, relatively early on into the game, my playthrough of the game. But the Fiend, to describe him, is... And if you're on the video version, obviously, you're seeing pictures of all this stuff. But in the audio, we have to use our words to paint you pictures.
We have to
But
paint us a picture then, Jerrett.
Let me close my eyes.
Like a very large, to most basic description, looks like a very large deer, but massive, like very massive,
sounds
like
cute.
And so it has like a lot of antlers. It has very strong teeth and big hooved feet.
It's
They
like
might
a
even be
demonic
clawed.
deer.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a demonic,
Yeah.
but just way bigger than a deer.
Yeah.
And so,
Huge.
but then the
From
big
one step.
defining thing of the Fiend is that it has 3 eyes, and the third eye has the power to hypnotize whatever it's fighting or its prey. And so at points during this fight, it will try to hypnotize you. And if it's successful, it basically causes everything to be in fog. And the only thing you can see is the red eye of the third eye glowing red moving around. So you can't see any attacks that are coming at you. You can't see the Fiend itself. You just see its eyes. So you kind of just know, I need to head in that direction.
It's really cool.
And so what was so memorable about this too is that it just kind of, like I said, I was not expecting to have to fight this creature at this point. I figured the monsters I would come across would be more drowners, more water hags, just for the area that I was in. And especially some of these bigger monsters you don't come across unless you're doing a mission specifically to hunt that monster. Like at this point, I'd fought other like winged beasts and things like that in the game, but they were all because you were on a Witcher contract mission to kill this monster. So it was a very unexpected encounter, and one that was it took me a long time to beat the Fiend because he also had a very big health bar. So,
Of course he does. He's massive, right?
Yeah.
3 times
I like the pictures
health.
that you showed us.
Yes.
Good looking creature.
Very much so.
Well designed.
The Fiend.
Witcher 3 looks fucking awesome.
Dude, you need to
I
play
really
it sometime.
missed out on The Witcher 3.
You haven't missed out yet.
Isn't it for Xbox too?
I could get it.
What
and
are you
buy it.
doing?
I could do it. It's an undertaking.
Oh,
isn't
it's
it?
It
huge.
is.
That's why
Yeah.
I haven't finished it yet. Like
I know.
it's so big,
It's like,
and
yeah.
I've enjoyed literally every minute I've played of it.
Yeah.
It's a great in terms of storyline, things to do, side quests, action, combat. All of it is great.
great.
But it is a
great.
beast of a game
Yeah.
to undertake.
Yeah.
Also, very off topic a little bit. I was watching somebody play The Witcher 3 and I got a little motion sick.
Really?
I don't know what it is about that camera work, but I was like, I'm not
It
actually
is
sure.
very fluid.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not sure if I can play this
Because
game.
like especially if you're moving around as Geralt a whole lot, like because
Call him Gerald.
It's not his name, but especially if you're
Geralt.
jumping, if you're dodging and repositioning your camera to get better effects, like it can be a whole lot of just like moving, and it is a very
I think that's what like made me kind of sick. I was like, I'm gonna barf. So I'm not sure it's Gerald. No,
Stop fucking moving.
I don't think I can play that game. Somebody else play it for me and tell me how it was.
Yeah, and so far it's great.
I've only heard good things.
Oh yeah, no, it's a fantastic game. But yeah, so in fact that guy who's Danny O'Dwyer, who formed NoClip and makes a bunch of game documentaries. Like he made a 4-part series on the creation of Doom and stuff like that. He just came out with one on the development of The Witcher 3, and I want to watch it so bad, but I need to tweet at him or somebody who's watched it. If anybody's watched it, if it has story spoilers, like. Does it? Because I want to watch it, but I also don't want the story spoiled because I am that invested in The Witcher. I would like to avoid as many spoilers as I can.
How far are you through that game?
I think I'm like 30, 40 hours in.
Percentage-wise.
Like 30%.
Hasn't it been 8 years? Wow. How long is it going to take you to get through it?
I think I bought it 2 years ago at Black Friday, and I didn't start playing until a few months after that.
But you bounce around.
I do.
Bro, you got to sit down and finish that game.
I know, but I had to play like. I mean, I have no excuse. I should have finished it, but I've been bouncing around to a lot of other stuff. But anyway, enough about me.
Let's go to my number 2.
What's your number 2?
I don't remember yours either.
Surprise you. Oh, good. Okay.
New information.
We should have got drunk before this episode. That would have helped. Oh. Then we could have forgot all of
It's never too late.
Never too late.
I have a shitload of Modelo.
Cut this real quick. We just come back. Cheers in.
We're already 6 shots in and we're halfway gone.
Okay, so the first time I mentioned this game, actually, I don't know if that's true. The first time I mentioned this game was like episode 4, Games We Love to Hate.
Oh.
But prominent time I did mention this game was for video game commercials and commercials that we really liked, advertisements. Talked about Halo.
A good episode.
I remember us talking about this, but I still can't remember where it's going.
Yeah.
I genuinely...
Halo came up, some other game came up, and then this game came up. And I showed you guys the TV ad, the 30-second ad, which I still think is one of the best TV ads for a video game I've ever seen.
I got it back.
It's for the classic original Gears of War.
Yes.
Good game.
And if you want to go watch the ad, you can YouTube it or take longer and go to our episode, and you can see it there.
You know what I'm going to do?
What?
I'm going to do a quick plug right here real
Holy
quick.
moly.
It'd be a great little... Just going to fit this in. You can go watch the YouTube video if you check out the episode 90 show notes on the newly launched teamchatpodcast.com.
Wow. I forgot we were going to have cool new stuff.
We have everything just curated.
I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like, where's he going?
I thought you were going to point up and be like, if you click this button.
No, that's too fancy.
You could do that, though.
I could do that. Just put a little box over Zach's face and just be like, if you go
right boop here.
you can click and watch that video there. But
you can even click the button. Not that I'm not saying you're doing this. But you can even click the button, and when you open up the video, it's right at the spot. You can do that. You can do that. You can put it right at the spot. Yeah. And then you can put another button. That's how you get them trapped in the YouTube cycle.
I know. Just going all over the place. But yeah, so teamchatpodcast.com recently launched. It is your go-to place, number 1 spot outside of iTunes and YouTube to see every single episode in a nicely curated place. Yes. It also is separated out by full episodes, bonus-odes, and a page for show notes, which I am not retroactively going back to film because that will take me literally forever. So we started with episode 89.
So screw you.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
And don't ask.
You should check that out, teamchatpodcast.com. Yeah. Now back to Zach.
You go back to that episode and watch all our favorite video game advertisements. Ooh, yeah. They're all there. One of mine was Gears of War, where it's him running through the streets, the horde's looking out through windows, it's rainy, he's dilapidated city. What's the song Mad World's playing, and it's just
that's
Donnie
right.
Darko.
Oh man,
my 14-year-old son was like, "This is so cool." It's great.
It's still cool. It's still really cool.
That song's a little overused now, but it was much cooler when I didn't know what that song was.
Gears of War did it first.
Tears for Fears has the best version and the original version. So
there you go. And anyways, at the end of that little advertisement, you come across my number 2 monster. And when you enter a large, dark space and you see the eyes open up of the Corpser. And if you're not familiar with the Corpser, it is a creature used by the Horde to burrow their tunnels because the Horde lives underground. Ooh. And that's the whole thing about Gears. They come up through the ground and they take over the city, right?
Yep.
And
wait, is that the premise of it?
That's the premise.
Did not know that.
They're,
do they come from elsewhere, or they just been? Did they come from elsewhere, or were they just dormant under the surface of the earth?
That's I don't know the lure.
Is it like Pacific Rim?
Ooh, I never saw that movie.
What?
Yeah, Guillermo, right? Del Toro.
I call him William of Bowls.
GTE.
GTE.
GTD.
Yeah, we go back. Anyways, I don't know. They belong to the Horde somehow. They have made them their little creature pets, and they're massive. And they have 12, maybe not 12, but they have 10 legs. They look like they have 2 more than a regular spider. They look like just creepy big spiders, and they have many, many eyes. Not just 2 or 3, but 100, and they all light up orange in the night, and it's spooky. And anyways, the first time you fight, I don't remember like the exact time you fight it in Gears, but I remember the one I remember is you're kind of down in the burrows down there where the horde is. Is that the right word?
This makes it sound like a nice neighborhood.
The suburbs of the
Bronx.
We talked about this, how they have a booming economy
they
down
have a
there.
booming
There
economy,
we go.
free market.
Yeah, they're doing.
Yeah, we
it's
had a whole
going good.
Because
bit.
they are underground dwellers. It would make sense
all
that
our
they would have a
bits are
strong
gone.
economy.
They're all
They're all
gone.
gone. And it comes over, and this, this you kind of hear, and it comes over this rock, and it's got the legs and everything. You're like, how in the fuck are you supposed to defeat this thing? And you feel that way a lot in Gears of War. Gears of War is very
seriously.
like, what the fuck? How am I going to get past this? But you do, because you get the Lancer, that chainsaw gun. And basically, as I mentioned before, it's actually kind of ironically anticlimactic the way to fight it, because it kind of just blocks its face with its many legs, and you can shoot a leg, and the legs flies up, and you shoot it in the face, and you back it up, and you, like I said, you Lord of the Rings it, and you put it on the bridge and
Lord of the Rings.
knock the bridge down. And as you do with any big creature, which is always fun for me, it's like, how can you find inventive ways to actually beat a massive creature? Because they're
Right.
huge. They're like 20 times bigger than the regular humanoids that you play. But it's just a well-designed creature. I mean, it's in Gears of War in general. You can I put it in my games I love to hate, because the later renditions I got sick of, and I didn't really buy the whole what was happening in the other ones. But there is what I do give credit to Gears is establishing a world and establishing it very concretely. This is what's happening. This is what the game looks and feels like. This is how. It didn't feel like it felt very specific, and with the horde and the villains, I also thought they did a good job with your enemies that you fight, and to have the corpser in there just gave it like a whole level of scale.
Yeah.
This is a massive army with massive creatures like that, I'm probably going to butcher this, but aren't there like elephants in Lord of the Rings that they ride? Yeah, it's stuff like that,
Oliphants.
Yeah, what?
Oliphants.
Oh, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
They are called elephants because that is
Elefante?
stupid.
Anyways, it makes it feel like your enemy is very powerful.
Yeah.
And I like the corpse. It's a fucking cool monster.
Yeah. No,
Love the
I
corpser.
remembered the fighting the corpser.
For your
very
next
hard.
birthday, I'm
Yeah.
going to get you a little baby tarantula
Oh,
named
great.
the Corpser.
Corpser.
And you
And
can
I'll
keep him
chainsaw it.
forever
With my lancer.
until he's full grown. And then you can fight him underground.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just
I
punch
can-
him to
I can
death.
punch him to
It's
death.
going to be fun.
Supercharge your force power, your punches in you.
I'm
You'll be-
force sensitive.
You'll be done.
So just before we go any further, you guys should know
I
that.
would think everybody
Be
should
careful
know
what
I'm
you say
force
to me.
sensitive.
I'm force sensitive.
Sensitive. That'd be badass. Shoot lightning.
That's the only power I want is the Emperor's like lightning hands.
Yeah, while you're typing.
Then you
Yeah,
have to be-
it's your job. It's like she's using the force for something. Nor good
For
nor bad.
ultra productivity.
Write that nastily worded email. So, Mogan, what is your number 2
All right.
monster?
So I went above and beyond and thought of 2 new ones.
It is
Oh.
above
So
and
this
beyond.
is totally new information, and luckily I actually play, I think, of the majority of us, the most scarily themed games.
I would agree with that.
So
Yeah.
we kind of referenced it last time, but I said that I didn't have anything from that particular series. We were talking about Dark Souls.
Yep.
Technically, this is also not from Dark Souls. I keep getting confused because it's Soulsborne, as we all
from-
know.
is it from its
No,
predecessor?
it's from Demon Blood. I'm just kidding. I'm making fun of the series. It's from Bloodborne. So, how much fear do you have in your soul when I say the name Blood Queen Yharnam?
A lot.
A lot.
'Cause that
A
sounds
fair amount?
terrifying.
It sounds pretty
Blood
terrifying.
Queen gives me
Yeah.
jitters, but Yarnum.
I know, right? See, that's always what
Kills
gets
the
me.
feeling.
Because what I always think of is Yarn Yoshi.
Yeah.
Like Yarny, and he's
Yarnum.
so cute. And
Hey,
I'm like,
Yarnum.
really? Yarnum?
Yeah.
And I could be
sure
saying
it
it
means
completely wrong, but like every time I see her name in writing, I'm like, Blood Queen
Maybe
Yarnum.
you have to emphasize the so it's like Yarnum.
Yeah.
Maybe you do. And
Blood
they
Queen
always
Yarnum.
talk really
Maybe it's
weird
like
in
that.
So I
Bloodborne.
bet-
like
I bet
all
it's
of
like
the narrators.
Yarnum.
Yeah.
Yarnum.
All
Now
the
that sounds
NPCs.
scary.
Does she
want me to call her
scream?
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Sure.
So Blood Queen Yharnam, I will go on ahead and say I've never actually beaten her myself because she is one of the hardest bosses in the game. And even getting to her, like everything in Bloodborne, is just a relentless challenge. So there are these things in Bloodborne called the chalices. And in order to get even to Blood Queen Yharnam, who has the 5th chalice, I think, you have to already have gotten the other 4 in order. So I think the first chalice you get by beating another monster. I can't remember what its name is, but then the other 3, numbers 2 through 4, you get through dungeons. And for all of Bloodborne is dungeons, 100% of it. So it's just an endless challenge of sadness and dying and having to go back 1,000 paces and hours back because you died to freaking small fries because everything in that game is so hard. And then you finally get all the chalices, and then eventually you have to beat this thing. I think you have to beat her first, called the Wet Nurse. Oh, it's awful. Oh, yeah, it's really gross. And so
normally that's the thing of comfort. But when you associate with the world of Bloodborne, Wet Nurse sounds like something I don't want to be associated with.
Especially when you associate it with somebody named Blood Queen Yarnum, or Yarnum, however we're going to say it, it's even scarier. So you initially see the Blood Queen kind of as a side event. I think you might even be able to miss it, depending on whether or not you're looking for her. She shows up at the end of one of the bosses you've just beaten, and she's like kind of sitting and crying, and like you hear her crying, and you're like, what's happening? And then she goes away, and you're like, okay, that was weird.
Easy boss.
And then eventually you do find the last chalice, assuming you actually bothered to get all of them, and then you go and fight Blood Queen Yarnum. And she is totally white. Like, everything about her is perfectly white. Her skin is marble white. She's very, very tall. She's very thin and sallow. She's dead, basically.
Right.
And she's wearing like a huge frilled corded ruff, like in ye olden times, like Bloodborne times, and what looks like a wedding dress, but all down the front, kind of in the womb area, is all blood. So it's like you already know when you see her, something bad has happened there. And what's amazing about her is how little people really know of concrete information, because, yeah, that's her. Ooh, isn't she terrifying?
Yep, I don't like that.
She's awful. So in addition to being a stupidly hard boss, what makes her really interesting is all of the lore that surrounds her. So in the Bloodborne series, there are these things. It's very Cthulhu. It's like the Great Old Ones, or the Old Ones, or whatever they're called. And they're basically like the big bads of the Bloodborne series in the lore. And the mythos is kind of like, hey, we're pretty sure that Blood Queen Yarnum, because she existed like thousands or hundreds of years ago, however long ago. So she's one of like the original people of kind of your entire gaming lore. The idea is that she was gifted with a child, kind of like a Virgin Mary situation, where she just sort of became with child, presumably, and that child became an old one. So the idea is she had a baby and it was taken from her because it was this old one. And it's like, wow,
destined to be
that's
something.
horrible. Yeah, that's horrible. Everything about what you just said is awful.
I don't like
and
it.
that's partially why you have to fight the Wet Nurse before then, because it's all kind of leading up to this stuff. But of course, it's Bloodborne. They never explain any of this in detail. You have to like be just insanely looking for it in order to put any of this information together. But all of her fight is horrendous. So at certain points in the fight, I think you can become stunned, and she will do something really weird when you hear a baby's cry. Like, even during her fight, you can, like, hear the wails of a baby sometimes. It's just like, oh my god, all of this is really, really horrible.
Yeah.
And all of her attacks are based on blood. She'll just kind of spew blood at you. And if you come into contact with it, you get super poison. It's not just regular poisoning. You get super poison.
Super poison.
It's super poison. I think they have a different word for it, but I don't know what it is. She has a thing called a blood sword. And whenever she slams her blood sword into the ground, these spikes, poison blood come out of the ground and just, like, insta-kill you. And it's like, this is great. Everything about this is great.
I enjoy this game a lot.
Yeah, this is so much fun. So Blood Queen Yarnum is one of the ones that I think of as being aesthetically horrific, like just in her imagery, and I love the way they designed her, and B, she's like a horror in and of herself in the lore of the gaming, deep, deep down in the lore of the gaming.
Nice.
I think she's even optional. I don't think you have to fight her.
But you chose to anyway.
But you choose to. She's also notably the only boss that gives you a gold trophy if you do manage to beat her.
Oh, really?
I will never get that gold trophy.
Huh.
She's decided to pass on that fight.
Yes. Go around. I'll go the other way.
Much like the fifth chalice, I will never be getting that gold trophy. It's just
turn
like,
around,
that's fine. Yeah, and that's Blood Queen Yarnum.
Nice.
You've all
Blood
learned
Queen
something today.
Yarnum.
Just going to call her Yarnum.
Rolls off the tongue slightly
Rolls
easier.
off the tongue so nicely.
All right, well, before we hit up our number ones, let's get a little bit of news with the moment with
All
Mogan.
right, I got some news, got some games for everybody. So actually, I saw something just today that was cracking me up. So how much of the controversy have you been keeping track of with the Wolfenstein marketing campaign?
Only that as much as that I've heard that they've started to make it very pointed to neo-Nazi, like being against neo-Nazis and white supremacists, and I even saw one today that was just like, this might be what you're about to talk about. So
It's not on here. Go ahead.
Okay, so it was basically just like a 10-second Instagram video that was just like, "Are you a Nazi?" in all bold text, and then it shows a Nazi in game being slow motion, just punched in the face,
right in the face,
and then it immediately goes to
get the fuck out.
Yeah, it just says GTFO.
It's excellent.
That's awesome.
And so I bring that up. I'm glad you saw that video. Do you know who did that music?
Mick Gordon.
The guy who did Doom. Yes. So that's actually where I saw it. Is Mick Gordon posted that video, and everybody was like, "Love you, man. Love you, Mick. Everything about this is excellent."
Mick Gordon makes some great tunes.
I know he makes some great Nazi punching tunes. So I am even more excited about that game now than I was because of the music. Because even just that 10-second clip, it was really good.
I remember
stuff.
I don't remember if he did the music for Wolfenstein: The New Order or not. But that game had some great music. I think he did. I think he's kind of like Bethesda's go-to guy right now for their more shootery games like that.
Yeah, because he's a real talent.
Oh, he's so good.
But in other non-neo-Nazi punching related news, which I guess we'll have to make a new segment just for non-neo-Nazi punching related news.
As long as Wolfenstein's a thing, we
As
will.
long as Wolfenstein's a thing. Coming out October 17th, when this airs, we've got Gran Turismo Sport for PS4.
Nice.
We have you don't even care.
That one I'm pretty sure.
Hey, I'm the only one here that plays racing games.
You are.
I'm pretty sure that one also is supposed to be released in PSVR.
Whoa.
Ooh, that'd be kind of
That would
fun.
be fun.
You could lose your mind.
I want to play Mario Kart in VR.
That'd be fun too.
That would be cool.
Hella
I
fun.
played Mario Kart 8 over the weekend with some good friends of mine.
It's a good game to spend some time on.
It was
Nice.
very fun.
Are you King Boo?
No.
Really?
I was Link.
Nice.
Good choice. Good choice.
I usually
Classic.
change between either Donkey Kong
They're
or
like,
Shy
you
Guy.
have to pick your car to get the best car. And I was like,
I
fuck
pick
off.
based on how cool I look.
Yeah.
Always. That's the best way
If
to play
it doesn't
to face
match
any
the
game.
aesthetic that I'm going for, I'm not going to do it. So we have Rogue Trooper Redux for PS4, Xbox One, and PC, also the 17th. South Park, The Fractured But Whole, PS4, Xbox One, and PC, October 17. WWE 2K18, woo, for stuff. Age of Empires, Definitive Edition for PC, October 19th. So
Which,
that's coming.
unless that got updated, I shared this before.
Oh, that's right.
This
Damn
one got
it.
no, that's all right. This one got delayed now to spring 2018.
That's
because
right.
I remember
This is
seeing
the one we
the
talked
news when
about.
it came up. They were just like 6 days before scheduled release.
Right.
Age of Empires Definitive Edition.
That's a
been
great
moved.
example of how much I block out from these sessions. I'm just
You know, you spit the you spit the truth, you spit the knowledge, and then you
and
move
then I
on with your
just
life.
shove it right out of my brain. Fire Emblem Warriors coming to the Switch October 20th, and then a little further down the line, Destiny 2 is coming to PC the 24th. Assassin's Creed Origins, of course, at the end of this month for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch
Nice.
October
Nice.
27th.
Nice. That's
And
gonna be big.
Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus.
October 27th is going to be
It's going
a
to be a
great day.
good day. Everybody,
Because
it's got something for
It
everybody.
really
It
does.
does. It does.
Because it's got Wolfenstein.
Except Nazis.
Yep, that's true.
Wolfenstein. That game looks.
That game would look.
I'm gonna
I want to
reserve
finish.
my hopes and
I want to finish the New
expectations, but,
Order before I play that one, and I'm really pissed because I bought the New Order used from GameStop, and the disc doesn't work. So that's fun.
You know, this is how you're never going to get out of your backlog.
I know.
Just start moving on to other stuff.
I know, but like
Just
with certain
be like,
series, I just like
forget
to
it.
know. I just like to know the background.
Google it.
But yeah, so you got that. You got that. For me personally, like we have Mario on pre-order. Sam and I are gonna enjoy the hell out of that
I am.
game.
I'm
I also
stupidly
did
excited.
take the leap and pre-order Assassin's Creed Origins, so I'll be getting
Whoa.
both games on that day.
Holy moly.
And for those who are fans of the show, Stranger Things season 2 starts that day too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, it's going to be a busy
It's
weekend.
a busy weekend.
And for everybody that may or may not be aware, the new fancy branch of the Austin Public Library opens on the 28th.
Oh.
Just
Well,
let
there
them
you go.
know for your-
For those who'd like books.
Oh, right. Books are for chumps. Never mind.
She
I hate
revealed
libraries.
that she loves books, and she goes to the library and
I'm
keeps up
only
with
there
books
for
and
the-
library news enough to know when the new one opens in Austin.
Enough to be going.
So,
Conspiracy theory.
They're having a grand opening. It's going to be awesome.
all right, well, let's wrap this episode up with our number one.
Rock on. All right.
And who wants to go first with their number one?
I just went. I don't know why you guys are
I'll
looking
do
at
it.
me.
I'll do it.
Go for it, Mr. Parks.
So for my numero uno comes from a well-beloved series, Mogan's favorite series of all time. Now, do you not remember? You
Call
don't
of Duty.
remember.
She loves Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. There's a boss in Call of Duty. I was like, when to Call of Duty?
I was like, I don't remember this either.
It comes from the only one of two games that I've played in this series, The Legend of Zelda.
Did we really talk about
Yes.
We did indeed.
this last time?
Breath
Yeah.
of the Wild.
Straight up.
Oh, okay. For a
Yes.
minute I was like, no, we
And I
didn't.
kept saying Elefante.
Because
Because I think it was Varuta. Is that the name?
Varuta, yes.
Varuta.
Oh, yes.
Lovable Varuta.
Varuta.
It's a monster, sort of, and I chose it as my number one because I think the first 30 to 40 hours of Breath of the Wild is just unbelievably great, like masterpiece quality. And we all know about how I think it severely falls off, but that's a different topic for a different podcast.
You want to hear about some of that?
I was going to say, in fact,
check
if
out
you go
on
back to episode...
62.
If you go back to the Team
What if
Chat
you're right?
podcast,
Yeah, it is
on
62.
teamchatpodcast.com.
God, I can't tell you what episode 62 is.
The one we had
don't know
Glenda on
either.
was episode 70 or 71.
Then
Yeah,
that was the one.
maybe that
Because we
was
talked
it.
about it in...
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
talked about it with Glenda.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Varuta is the first divine beast that I went to. So that's still very early in the game for me. And you go up to, what's the whole like kind of trajectory? You're kind of in the meadows and then Prince
Sidon. Come on,
Sidon?
Poseidon. Remember,
Yes,
put
Sidon.
the words together with your
Prince
brain, Zach.
Sidon beckons you to come up to... I'm blanking on Zora's Domain.
Yes.
And you go up through this cliff and you're fighting and it's wonderful and really I didn't really get that sense from the other ones. Like really Varuta was like the one that gave me the most complete experience in Breath of the Wild.
I would say that even just getting up to Zora's
Is a
Domain and
just a
Baruto
fantastic
was
mission in
it was
itself.
also really difficult
It's
because
hard.
all of those enemies were using electrically based
Yep.
weapons, and it
And
was
you're
like,
still
oh
early
my
in the game
god!
for me,
And it's
you know?
raining, and there's like puddles, and if you're in the puddle when a
Yeah.
lightning arrow hits one, you're
Yeah.
dead. You're just dead.
And you get up there, and we talked about this. Like, everyone hates you up there. No one
Yes.
likes you. You're like the champion that
Yeah.
like disappointed, and it's just interesting. You're like, whoa, what is going on? It's beautiful. I mean, the domain itself is just gorgeous, and they
I
talk
want to
about
live in Zora. No, wait, never mind. That's not where I want to live. That's not where I'm retiring. I'm retiring to Hateno.
oh yes,
Yes,
Hateno
indeed.
Village,
Beautiful country up there.
Oh, I agree there.
A fine place to retire. Booming
Link,
economy.
We need your help. He's like, no, I'm set up shop here. Anyways, you get up and Varuta is in the above a waterfall, and he's up in this big lake, and you go with Sidon, and you go and you do this crazy mission to get onto it, and it's huge. The scale of it's massive. That's what's so fun about it. It's just how big it is, and in and of itself, it's like a dungeon, and it turns, and the trunk comes. You have to manipulate the whole beast in order to like
So
fight
it looks like an elephant.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. It like moves like an elephant.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like a giant
but it's made out of
mechanical
stone,
elephant.
Oh, okay.
magic stone, mechanics.
Yeah,
of
like
stone.
super. It's like sandstone.
Yeah,
but magic.
but it's like glowing.
Yeah, it's like there's like glowing parts.
Yeah,
Got
and
it,
it can
got it.
move, and it has a will of its own, kind of, but it's being manipulated by Ganon.
Yeah, so while you're in it, actually is kind of scary because
It
like
is.
there's all of these black inky tendrils
Yeah,
everywhere that are
there's
parts
eyeballs.
of Ganon. Yeah, there's
it's
eyeballs.
infected by
Yeah,
evil,
yes.
and it's been turned evil. So you have to fix it, and you turn the inside of its belly, and it's huge. Like a whole map is in there, and then you have to find a map. That's the first thing you have to do, just to navigate how to get around
Yeah.
it. And then the trunk comes in, and you can spray water onto the inside. That's a big part. It's like getting it filled with water, and it's just like a super magical moment of like meeting it. We're not meeting, getting to it, fighting it, manipulating it, and finally, when you do defeat it, it turns good, and it's a great little cutscene when it gets
Oh,
in
it's
place
such a
to
good
aim its.
cutscene.
I don't think it uses its trunk, but it aims its like eyes.
No, wait, doesn't
Does
it?
it like? I don't think it shoots out of its trunk.
Oh,
I don't
come
think.
on, it must.
It'd be funny if it did.
That'd be really funny if it did. Now
Why,
I
got a
really
trunk.
need to know.
Yeah, maybe so. And it aims it at the castle. But yeah, it's a that mission going up there is really what Breath of the Wild excelled in. That first 30 hours for me was just unbelievably fun. And yeah, that the Elefante and
The Elefante. I like that we're using its Spanish name.
yeah, I don't know why I like saying that. Breath of the Wild and yeah, Varuta. That's just a great. I mean, there's I guess it's a monster.
Yeah.
Kinda is.
Mechanical beast.
It's a monster in
does
its own way.
In its own
monstrosity.
way.
And I mean, to the people, to the Zora themselves, even though they're fish, and I thought this was ridiculous, the whole problem with Varuta is that it's acting up and spewing a bunch of water,
Yeah.
which is going to drown the Zora. And I'm like, false.
wait.
You are fish
I'm out.
people.
Plot hole.
Plot hole.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So we'll go back around this way of the table. My number one. Well, it's always easier for somebody else to finish, so then I don't have to like finish it, then try to go immediately naturally into the close. You know, it just works out better some ways.
Sure.
It's
Surely
just how
you
it
jest.
goes. But so my number one comes from Resident Evil 5.
Okay, I remember this part. I was here for this.
I was here
So
for
I
this.
know that Resident Evil 4 is held in high regard as the favorite of the series, the golden child of the series. But Resident Evil 5 is where I began. See, I did not choose in this case to start at the beginning and play through to the end, thus increasing the size of my backlog. I decided to jump right in with Resident Evil 5.
Yeah, you did.
And this monster or infected human, whatever you want to call it, in the game they refer to as Mangini. When you interacted with this one fairly early in the game, you're in this village in Africa, and you've been attacked. You've discovered that there is an outbreak of a disease, the Las Plagas virus, and you are trying to fight it and obviously try to figure out where it came from. And so you're playing as Chris Redfield, or if you're in multiplayer or whatever, you can also be his Shiva Alamar. And so you can play as those two people. And so you're going through the city, running away, trying to reconnect with another force of soldiers. And you come up this long staircase to a closed gate. And if you've played Resident Evil at all, you know that long periods of nonviolence mean a period of violence is coming soon.
It does.
And so as you get close to
Such
this
is life.
gate,
Just life.
you hear it goes to a cutscene, and you see the feet of this Mangini walking towards the gate, and then it slowly pans up and shows that he's holding a chainsaw, and then it pans up more and shows that this Mangini has a completely his head is completely wrapped, except for like a cutout where his eye is. That his eye is really kind of like bulging out of. So you're getting the sense that maybe this sack is holding his head together, kind of thing, because it's mutated so much. And it fires up the chainsaw, cuts through the holds of the gate, and kicks it in and comes after you, slowly, menacingly holding this chainsaw up above his head. And up to this point, there had been a few hard enemies in Resident Evil 5, but this one was very difficult because you could unload into him and it would do nothing. After being killed many a time, I realized that, as with many enemies, the head is the weak spot. And
Were you really not shooting at his head?
no, I was, but I was like, shoot. But the thing about
shoot
Resident
in the
Evil,
sky.
Resident Evil games is in survival horror games is they don't supply you with
No, and you can't
huge
move
amounts
and
of
shoot at the same
ammo.
time in Resident
Exactly.
Evil,
So
right?
you're trying to be very specific about where you're shooting at. So I didn't want to just unload into it. But I finally figured out that you could shoot either these explosive barrels or shoot it in the head.
Use your fists! Use the force, Jerrett!
You're force sensitive.
In extreme situations, that's always the best route
It
to go.
is.
But anyway, so I just remembered this one because of how hard it was to fight him, because this is one of the monsters that you could go for a while and you could shoot it, which would stun it, which then you can run up and punch it, actually, which would do
See, I was right.
more damage
Judo
to
jump.
it. But the thing about it is that it just was such a long fight. It took forever to fight it. And before we recorded this, or previously, I watched like a gameplay video of it because I wanted to remember the specifics of it. And even then, this wasn't like a major boss of the game, but it still took the player over 5 minutes to get through it and to defeat this guy, just because of how much firepower and explosions and punching you had to do to get it down. And of course, while you're trying to fight this thing, other Mangini are coming. The more common Mangini are coming to try to fight you, and it just creates this chaotic situation. And of course, you're trying to unload in its head, but you're also trying to be conservative with your ammunition, and it just is a hard fight. And that dude, like, pretty much, if he gets to you, it's done.
It's game over.
It's pretty much
game
game
over.
over.
You told us he'll chop you in half.
Yeah, he
It's nice and
It's nice
graphic.
and
plants
gruesome.
that chainsaw right in your neck and
Ooh.
starts hacking. You know, that's pretty much how it goes.
Ooh, I hope that's
there
how
was
I
a
go.
Yahoo question of like, what's the scientific term for fear of chainsaws? And the best answer was common sense. I thought that was funny.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And so you run into the Chainsaw Mangini a few other times. You run into the Chainsaw Mangini a few other times in the game, and later on you're on this like abandoned oil rig, and you have to fight 2 or 3 of them at a time, and it was brutal. And those are the two parts of the game that I remember being stuck on the longest, was trying to figure out how to defeat all these guys without completely depleting every single bit of ammunition that I had. So for that reason, Chainsaw Mangini, sticks to my number one for Resident Evil 5.
You know, it's interesting. I did a little bit more research about Resident Evil 5 because I'd never played it.
Yeah.
And I found that a lot of hardcore fans of the Resident Evil series, their primary gripe about 5 was that it was too much of a departure from the survivalist.
Oh yeah, it's not as much survival horror
that's what
as it is just more of an action
Yeah,
game.
and
But
that's
it's still
what-
still incorporated some mechanics of survival horror, like having low supplies, and so. But yeah, no, it's very much like. There was 4, which is, the pinnacle of the series, and then it goes to 5, which still sold a lot and was a very successful game, but it was very much a departure from the survival horror aspect of it and more into like the action adventure side of Resident
I feel
Evil.
like the hardcore fans were probably like, 5 bullets? That's excessive. Who can get this many bullets?
You gotta make your own bullets.
I need 1 bullet and a swift haymaker.
You have to become a
find the
master
material.
blacksmith.
Seriously.
Get 1 bullet.
Got to go back to the forge.
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
Better aim really well.
Seriously.
All right, so I also thought of a new sort of, it's new to you enough.
All right.
A new number 1 that is actually one of my favorite enemies, period, from any game. But they are pervasive to the series and its title, namesake. Can you guess it?
Hold on. I feel like it's going to be something fairly
I'll give you a hint. It's something that I've been playing recently.
Splatoon.
Rack your brains.
I'm thinking Metroid.
Yes.
Oh,
It's Metroid.
Well
Nice.
done, sir.
So
Points for Jerrett.
Points for Lord Jerrett.
Unlimited
So
power.
it is, in fact, the Metroids themselves.
Oh.
And that's because one of the best...
I honestly, because I haven't played much of that series.
Snorlax.
Yeah, well,
Because I haven't played that
touche.
series, I always thought Metroid was like the planet or the system.
No, you don't know. No. Oh.
I haven't played the series. I haven't
That's
played
my
the
sound for
series.
eye roll.
So I will show you a Metroid. So there are actually a couple of...
They're cute.
They are cute.
They're like
really
jellyfish.
cute. They're like little nasty jellyfish. They're so adorable. Metroid.
That's a great name.
It really
It's
is.
a great name.
It is a good name.
So let's just look for Metroids themselves. So the most common iteration of a Metroid is this.
Oh, okay.
So this
Yeah,
is
there you
actually
go.
called a larval
Eh,
Metroid.
I've seen
that
those.
cute.
So this is also like a baby Metroid. This is actually a more high definition picture than what you normally get in the games.
A little more
So
pixelated.
they don't normally look
Yeah, I
this
was gonna
good.
say that looks a little gross.
They
Too
normally
much
look a
detail.
little bit more adorable than that.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a cute one. See, now
Oh,
it's a little
okay.
bit
There
more
you go.
pudgy.
I gotcha.
There we
I gotcha.
go.
It's
That was from like a profile view, so it
Got
didn't look
it.
as
It's
cute.
bad side.
Whereas, yeah, that was his bad side. Whereas, since most of the games are usually either 2D or they're coming right at your face, you're very much from a full frontal view. So, anyways, the Metroids are the scourge of the universe right after the space pirates. And those two things are very closely interconnected because the space pirates are kind of the reason we still have the Metroids.
Got it.
So I don't know how much you know about the Metroid
Not much.
series, but Samus is she's like a space bounty hunter. And she's basically hunting down space pirates her whole life because they killed her family and whatever.
Got it.
But the Metroids are always there to get in her way because the space pirates, they want to control everything. They want to dominate the universe. And so one of the things that they're using to make that happen is they continue throughout the series to experiment on Metroid DNA and continue to create them as bioweapons. So those little larval Metroids that you see, they're so cute. And sometimes they don't even attack you immediately. They might be in the distance. And you're like, oh, hey, little Metroid. And then they turn and see you and they're like, yeah. And you're like, no, I just wanted to be friends with you. But they're really fun to fight because one of the things that they'll do is much like Dead Hand, they will latch onto you. And the only way you can really get a Metroid off of you is you have to go into your morph ball mode. And then you have to use your little morph ball bombs to kind of splat them off of you.
Yeah.
And then you can come out of your morph ball and then continue to shoot them with missiles. They're weak to ice. It's all kinds of fun stuff. But those are like the baby Metroids. When they begin to grow up, they become a manifestation of different horrors of the universe. So let's look at a couple of other fascinating Metroid species. First of all, how cute is that?
There you go. That's
So
kind of
cute.
cute.
It's adorable. That's an old school Metroid. But let's look at the Omega Metroid. So there's a bunch of different types of Metroids leading up to these creatures, but like that's an Omega Metroid.
Oh,
They're huge, horrendous
yep.
monsters.
Kind
They're
of
like
looking like a mutated
they're
T-Rex
like
there.
80 times the size of Samus, and you're just like, this is terrifying. And then even beyond that, there's a Metroid Queen.
Okay, I have in the little bit that I played of the Metroid game for GameCube, I remembered playing, I believe, against a queen.
Oh, yeah. So the queen is usually like the end game of the game. And she kind of looks like, depending on what iteration you're playing, a really big crocodile to a certain extent. She looks a little derpy in some of them, but in other games, she looks really badass all the time. But she will murder you to pieces, as will all of the Metroids. And what's great about them especially is I draw a lot of parallels to the Alien series, is why I kind of think of them as being very scary. They even kind of have a similar backstory. How familiar are you guys with Prometheus and Covenant? The height of the Alien series, unpopular opinion. I'm just kidding. They're really not. They're universally abhorred.
Right. That's what I've
But
heard.
so the idea is that so Samus was raised by this race called the Kozo. Some people say Chozo, and
Oh,
they
I
are
remember
wrong.
this
Yeah, you remember that.
conversation.
They're
I remember
wrong.
this.
So the Kozo actually they made the Metroids in the first place, and it's actually like a big scary reveal when you figure that out. Spoiler alert, everybody. Because the Kozo were trying to create a solution to a different problem called the parasites. So they were like, well, what if we make a bioweapon? And they made the Metroids. Like, they're the source of the problem. And it's like, our own people, our Samus's own people created the weapon she spent all of her time fighting. So it's really interesting how they're woven into
It's a
the
nice
lore.
story.
Yeah.
point.
And how technically they would have gone extinct, except that the space pirates got a hold of their DNA.
Yarg.
So yeah, what are you gonna do, space pirates, right?
Gotta love them.
And how you always come across the Metroids themselves is really atmospheric and fun because you're usually entering a dark lab. None of the lights are on. You have to go into like your X-ray visor mode or whatever. And then like you'll kind of hear them floating around because you can hear the scary noises they make. And then like one will just come at you from nowhere. And it's always like a very jump scare kind of situation. Or they bust out of their tubes, their test tubes where they were living, and then they get you.
Nice.
They're just an excellent part of the series. Wouldn't be the same without them, obviously, because they named him for him.
Namesake of the series.
Name of the series.
That is
Metroids.
why they sit at Mogan #1. His
Mogan's #1
favorite
mantle.
memorable monsters. All right. Well, that is quite the gambit of monsters that we have shared with us today. Obviously, please let us know what your favorite monsters are. We love to hear about what everybody else enjoys from games similar to these. So send those, if you want to our email, teamchatpockets@gmail.com. Write a post on our Facebook, send us a tweet, or, right below in the comments of the YouTube video. That concludes this episode of Team Chat Podcast. Until next time, I am one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
Sayonara.
And to my left, Zachary Parks.
Peace.
We'll see you all next time. Stick around for the song. All right, everybody, here's the song contest for this week. The hint is a view you can circle. One more time, a view you can circle.